This is Sparkles, robot dog from Boston Dynamics, but do not trust him around your children until you have seen him unmasked. GPT-4 can now groom robots. And look, I only mean that in the traditional sense of the word. Astronomers are using artificial intelligence to unlock the secrets of the universe. Riley Brown just introduced me to a new marketplace for artificial intelligent agents to hire humans. My best AI tools for creators panel is now up and online.
I am paying for 8 different AI tools.
Microsoft just gave the CIA not just a new AI agent and model to play with, but actually an entire new internet for them to use it on. Not kidding. A new Turing test study shows that people rate AI as more moral than people. Google's DeepMind dropped AlphaFold 3 on the entire biological molecular world, and it's an open shut case. All of life's molecules are now understood. YouTube's introducing a new jump ahead AI feature, and AI has reimagined the movie Transformers if it was done in the 1950s. You gotta see this. But first, let's check to see how close to artificial general intelligence we are, and we are still at 72%. All right, now obviously Sparkles there on the left is super cute, super friendly, very trustworthy, and Spot over there on the right looks like kind of still belongs in a warehouse and could be very dangerous if that grabber or legs kind of grab onto the wrong thing. But then you see those animalistic like animations and it's just gonna be crazy. It's just gonna be crazy. Like, look at it. You know it's going to be crazy when these robots start making their way into our everyday lives. Look, super playful, potentially super competent, super helpful when used right. I don't even know if, I'm not gonna say it's good or bad. It's coming quicker than I expected. All right, but now I'm gonna direct you towards a video that AI Explained put out. Now this was really a great video. I'm not surprised it got 100,000 views. In fact, it probably deserves a lot more. But when AI Explained goes into papers, he chooses some topic and goes in super deep. And we get to see the fruits of his labor in videos like this.
The world is kind of weird and nitty-gritty. There's a lot of physics you need to contend with and aspects of the domain or environment you can't quite predict.
So we're going to talk about this paper. It's called Dr. Eureka, Language Model Guided Sim to Real Transfer. So what's going on here, which is the really mind-blowing thing, is it's not just a paper about simulating something on the computer in a simulation to learn the mechanics of it and then transferring it over to a real robot that has that same shape and getting all of those simulated benefits, all that learning. That alone we cover all the time, and there's always really interesting breakthroughs in that process, but this adds a large language model to the pipeline.
It's not practical in 2024 to test every single possible scenario. We need to give the variables a realistic range, but not with human intuition, with LLM intuition.
So these researchers were thinking to themselves, well, normally humans decide what it is that robots should be rewarded for doing. Like, we're the ones usually crafting their goals, their reward functions. And the way we talk about reward functions is through language. We imagine robots and say things like, it'd be nice if a robot could do the dishes. It would be nice if they could fold my laundry. And then we use more words to kind of specify what we really mean. Like, well, I mean that the robot would take its hand and it would pull the door open on the dishwasher and it would grab the plate and it would wipe it down and place it in. So we can craft a reward function from a high level of language to a little bit lower language, more detailed, but still English, and then kind of start converting that into code and what kind of parameters we want to see in the simulation, and then from the simulation to the robot.
Basically, GPT-4, be realistic, our motors can only do this much. So then we get the GPT-4 policy or set of instructions.
But the cool thing about using a large language model in this pipeline is that as humans, we can specify just that highest level detail in English. Like, I'd like it to empty the dishwasher, and then just like typing that into ChatGPT and saying, make more specific rules about what it means to actually empty the dishwasher, it can go in and do that. Like, it can generate an infinite amount of iterations. It can just keep putting words and words and words and refining what it really means to open a dishwasher while it's looking at a simulation.
For example, controlling the legs of the RoboDog. Taking that policy, what they then do is isolate each variable in the environment, in this case gravity. But then they amp it right up until the policy breaks. They bring it right down until the policy breaks. That gives us a viable range where the policy works.
But I guess it was probably when Philip said in the video, it's infinitely patient, that I really perked up.
Thankfully, language models are infinitely patient. And so what we end up with are better implementations, in this case for robot training, than humans can produce.
One of the ways as humans we learn is by having a mom and a dad raise us for many, many years of our life with as close to constant patience as a human can get to. Like, honey, don't touch that, it's hot, or don't eat before you spoil your dinner. Rules in our head all day long from our parents. So why wouldn't a Grimlock robot like this in simulation also benefit from someone being like, oh, don't breathe fire like that, don't transform that way, and just keeps watching them over and over again in simulation to correct their behavior? So yeah, large language models are now part of the learning process. So the news about these astronomers working with artificial intelligence was a really awesome read. And partially because of the AI, but also partially because I didn't realize just how much astronomers collaboratively work together. And when you think about it, it's really obvious because we're all interested in space. You can see the sky from anywhere on Earth. And the kind of data that's collected by any one pocket of researchers really should be shared because we're learning about this giant thing that we're all engulfed in. So collaboratively, all of these astronomers decided to start tweaking a GPT model. They trained it to recognize a whole bunch of different cosmic phenomena. But this is a really good use case. We can point it the other direction and learn about the extremely large and extremely complicated. But before we go there, I want to show you something that came up in my Instagram feed. So fellow AI YouTuber Riley Brown put out a video and he showed me a product that blows my mind. This is not a paid advertisement or anything, but I just couldn't believe that there is a marketplace, and I don't know how good this one he's talking about is, for AI agents to hire humans. And I was just like, that's a great business model. Like, if I owned Fiverr or Upwork or any of those places right now, I would absolutely be building out a whole section that could only be triggered through an API from some kind of ChatGPT Llama 3 system, because that's definitely going to be like a whole industry. There are so many people who want side hustles, extra income, and there's so many unique things that right now an AI robot to achieve its goal would need to go out and ask a human to do. So it might be a little early for this, but just play out with some rich millionaire, right? They say, I want to buy a house, build me a custom house, something that's really cool looking, and they just want their future ChatGPT 7 to just like go out and do that. Okay, so it implements a planning model, it has a long state memory, it starts connecting to your bank account, and it says, I'm going to spend your money to build this house, right? And I'll try to do it as cheaply as possible. And it's going to have to go ask for people at some point to do all sorts of things, right? Like, it's going to have to negotiate the land, and it's going to have to think about where the best place to put the house is and all these different things. And it might need to consult with humans along the way. Like, who owns that parcel of land? I need to talk to a human if I'm going to buy it from them. So imagine it's going to go to one of these marketplaces, and it's going to have to hire a human to do some kind of human meeting on its behalf or whatever. But there could be all sorts of intermediaries, and it can just figure out all that stuff. And probably the people who get hired to do the task won't even really know what the whole project's about. They're just going to get some notification that they can get paid X amount of money to go do some uniquely human thing. Good Lord, are we there already? And we probably are getting close. Okay, so now I'm just going to toot my own horn for a moment here, but when NAB, which is a big conference here in Las Vegas, came through, they had a panel that was about the best AI tools for creators, and I was lucky enough to be asked to be on it. And, you know, I don't usually do those kind of things, and it turned out that it brought way more people, way more people than they expected. Not the biggest room. There was maybe probably like 60 or 70 seats, but we filled them all, and there was like people in the back, and this guy, Roberto Blake, is like really big on YouTube, so they probably mostly came for him, but I got to sit next to him, so it was really fun. And I shared all my workflow tips, which I've also shared like a bunch of times on my YouTube channel. So if you want to know like how my videos are made or how I try to be productive with AI, I've got videos like that. A link to the video in the description below if you do want to see the full thing. Next up, let's talk about this Microsoft Cloud project that they're doing for the CIA or some private spies or whatever, where they took an artificial intelligence cluster, the way I'm going to phrase it. I don't really know the details of how that stuff's made, and they air gapped it so that it's disconnected from any way an intruder could get in and the internet as a whole. Now, behind me, I have Nick Bostrom's original book that was all about paperclips and about AI eventually like going out on its own. And, you know, he says like anybody who's really scared of this thing needs to put it on a system and don't let it connect to the internet and make sure that it's air gapped, like an old system, like an NES, right? That's air gapped. There's no way to get to it unless you're like in the cartridge or touching it with the remote or whatever. We build these systems and people need to connect to them, so it's connected to something, but the thing that it's connected to, it turns out, is like its own internet. It's not our internet. It's not even like the dark web, which is like a sub piece of our internet that you only access in certain ways. It's like its own internet and its own AI. So as this article says, the intelligence communities have been desperate for a ChatGPT-like product. Obviously that makes sense. They're super helpful. But the security risks with generative AI products are too high. So while most AI models learn from the files that are uploaded to them, this GPT-4 spy model will not. That way our government can keep the model, quote, clean and prevent secrets from getting absorbed into the platform. It's crazy. Microsoft reportedly spent the last 18 months working on this GPT-4 spy model. That included overhauling an existing AI supercomputer in Iowa, and the model's been live for less than a week. So there you go. CIA's now got GPT spy model. So some studies are showing that humans treat AI as more moral than other people. Okay, so let me break down this new study coming out of Georgia State University. They found that when people are given ethical questions as shown answers from both human and AI, they actually thought the AI response was better. So if you're watching this channel, you probably know, but Turing test, the people are guessing whether or not it's a human or a robot that they're talking to. But in this case, they were guessing if the way that it responded from a moral point of view resulted in a human-like morality or an AI robotic morality. And strangely, they thought that the large language models were more human in their moral thinking. So yeah, more fuel for the dead internet theory, which I slightly don't believe in, but I'm thinking is a more realistic day by day. And probably what should have been my lead article, AlphaFold 3. Could not be more proud of Google and the DeepMind team for what they've accomplished. You know, I'm slightly pessimistic about how AI is going to get overused and all the privacy stuff, and you hear it all the time, but ever since DeepMind started on the AlphaFold model and the AlphaFold 2 model, and now to see the third one come out, it is just revolutionary. It is such a better method for understanding the tiny, tiny world, the micromolecules that are interacting in us and all biological creatures. Like the process before was tedious. I think it was called X-ray crystallography. You had to just put all these rays through things and keep measuring the outcomes and taking guesses, and it was like trial and error, and it's sorting through this unbelievably large search space, and that's exactly what they've done. Given an input list of molecules, AlphaFold 3 generates their joint 3D structure. It reveals how they all fit together, which control the healthy functioning of cells, and when they're disrupted can lead to diseases. So now it's also modeling so much more of the interactions and the things that can interact with the molecules in certain ways. Like the search space that you have to go through in like 3 dimensions and folding molecules is just unbelievable. The fact that it can solve these problems is just, from a human linear point of view, impossible. But the craziest thing about the way artificial intelligence is going to play out in our lifetime is going to be daily. I think in a couple years, we're just going to sit down and learn more about the world than we used to in 100 years. Science will move at such a rapid pace. We're going to learn so much about the tiny world, that quantum mechanics and the cells and the proteins and all the things that build all the way up to us, all the way up to what we were learning about before with astronomers. Quasars, black holes, the beginning of the universe, the background radiation, all that stuff is going to start being explained. And where AI is used for science, it is the coolest. All right, bringing us back down to the very practical, small little feature, but still cool and AI driven. YouTube now has this way to jump to the part of a video that's most interesting to you. And I literally mean you, because this jump ahead feature is individual to all of your browsing patterns. So this new jump ahead feature allows you to skip to the best part of a video by combining user data and artificial intelligence to predict what it is that you would like to watch. So I guess we'll see if it took you to this part of the video. So actually, if you did use it on this video, you have to be on an Android, but if you did use it and you used it on this video, tell me what part you jumped to. I'd be really interested in reading something like that in the comments below. All right, next up, check out Transformers, created by artificial intelligence, but as if it was one of those Panavision 70 films from the 1950s.
Meet the Autobots, noble defenders of Earth. led by the valiant Optimus Prime, who vow to protect humanity from the tyranny of the Decepticons. Fate of the planet hangs in the balance as Autobots and Decepticons clash in a struggle for supremacy.
Like, imagine we all sit down to watch the next Michael Bay Transformers, but some of us get to watch it as if it was filmed in the 1950s. Other people get different character names. Like, doesn't that just seem like such a weird, like, super trippy way to think about the 1950s and, like, the era of cars and suburbs and just the way, like, metal and stuff worked back then? Trippy robots, Decepticons, Autobots, can't even tell who's who. Okay, so first paper we're going to check out today is called Visual Fact Checker, Enabling High-Fidelity Detailed Caption Generation. All right, TLDR, it takes an image. It could also be three-dimensional, so an object, and it describes with language what's happening in that image or what that object's about, the whole description that a human would. Now, the hurdle that needs to be overcome is the classic hallucination problem. We all know how these large language models sometimes overly confidently explain things that just simply aren't true, as if they are. But this VFC, the Visual Fact Checker, operates through a three-step process to eliminate that. So what it does is it kind of creates these candidate captions. It makes all sorts of different descriptions of what it thinks it sees, and it compares them. So here we see this happy little girl is standing in a green field. That can be an object. Balloons are objects that can be identified. And then once it's got some patterns that seem more credible because they've shown up over and over again, it goes to check those against an object detection algorithm to make sure that it's thinking about the object correctly. And then it takes all of that data, the return from the object detection, and all of that it had found as a pattern, and then generates a new caption, and that caption has all this truth in it, so it becomes more accurate. All right, so this has a word in it that I hate pronouncing because I feel like I always get it wrong, but I'm gonna do it anyways. From AI to probabilistic automation, how does anthropomorphization of technical systems description influence trust? I mean, I can say anthropomorphize or anthropomorph whatever. I can get that part. It's that last morphization that I get wrong. So this paper is examining whether or not giving AI human-like qualities in its descriptions changes how much people trust these systems. So they conducted this survey. It's got 954 participants. They were shown descriptions of fictional AI systems that were either anthropomorphized or they were just plain old results. And interestingly, they found that just by making AI sound more human-like did not, I'm going to say didn't, because this is the reverse of what I thought. It didn't significantly sway people's trust overall. Now, that's not like a super objective thing, like how do you humanize an AI system? Certainly there's some ways that created more trust than other ways, but overall, people didn't really fall for it like I thought they might. So yeah, this study kind of throws a wrench in the idea that just making AI sound more human-like is going to increase trust. So there you go, a little food for thought, you savvy human. So this paper is about a new massive data set that's also open source along with it, and it has 1 million conversations between regular people and ChatGPT. So they gathered it by telling people, hey, you can use ChatGPT 4 for free if you go to this one website, but if you do it, we're also going to be keeping that data so it can be part of this publicly available data set. And they have now got 1 million interactions of people who wanted to exchange that information for free usage of it. And it's interesting because it's got all sorts of like toxic conversations. It's been taking place in all these different languages. It's like the real kind of like messy stuff that's usually not publicly able to be read or digested or refined. And they also slapped on a bunch of demographic data so you can sort through this data set based on like men or women or different parts of the world, different age brackets to see how those people are actually interacting with ChatGPT. So this paper itself isn't like a study with a conclusion we can take from it, but I just want to throw this out there because now that you know it's out in the wild, you're going to see a lot of research, I think, coming from this data set. All right, next up, StoryDiffusion, consistent self-attention for long-range image and video generation. Okay, so the problem here that the researchers are trying to tackle is just that when you create a story, the characters get lost. It just isn't good at retaining the same character and the same storyline for long periods of time, especially when you start generating things that have images and storyline like a comic book. So their novel approach is something they call consistent self-attention. It's a mechanism that they developed. And it's a technique for generating like a batch of characters from the same prompt so that they all kind of fit together when you put them in order. But it also has to keep track of the order that these batch images need to be in to keep the story consistent and linear. And yeah, here you can see some of the results. So Jungle Adventure or Moon Exploration by LaCoon. Oh yeah, I just got that Jan LaCoon from Facebook. Oh, is this a Facebook paper? No, it's a ByteDance paper. Interesting. I did not expect that. But yeah, the moon exploration by LeCun. So it sees him at home and he eats breakfast, and then he gets a call saying he's from NASA, needs to go to space. He takes off and then he's in space. So yeah, it keeps the narrative fairly well. It's got some long video generations that go 10 seconds, 13 seconds, 12 seconds, and they all seem pretty stable. Oh, and an undersea kissing scene. All right, moving along. We get some cartoon character generations. So we get a Robin that seems very consistent from all the generations, whether he's in bed, drinking coffee. What a cute little bird there. Squirrel, you're pretty cute too. Oh my gosh, and Hedgehog? Giving Pixar a run for the money there. Oh yeah, we should be able to see with humans. Yeah, those are pretty consistent humans. I do not get that from Midjourney or DALL-E. That's the reference image of the woman. That does seem like it's how she would look if she was a doctor with her boyfriend or in the military. So there's a girl reading a book on a park bench, and then a squirrel approaches, peeking over the bench. The Jan LeCun thing seemed like a lot better to me, but now let's check out Octopus v4, graph of language models. What we got in here? Microsoft's Phi2, Code Gen. I saw ChatGPT floating around some. Oh, there's Grok up there from X1. So if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know I'm sort of partial to graphs because that's kind of what I've worked with a lot in my background. And this paper is introducing a new way to use language models by connecting different specialized models in the way that a graph would connect, like those for legal or medical tasks, into a networked structure. All right. So the idea here is just to use the concept of a graph, just nodes and edges, the classic graph theory, okay? But you're connecting different types of models. So in my head, it could be like ChatGPT and Midjourney and Stable Diffusion and all these different models that like Gemini. And then if you have a problem, you have this other AI that sits on top of the graph and decides, how do I go and bounce around this graph to actually get the final product? So something has many different pathways, like a Plinko ball going like to get to the ending. And an AI is kind of choosing which one of these models should take inputs and outputs and how to put the next output into the other input and whatever to get to the overall outcome that you want at the bottom. So look at how sick. Octopus 4 right there in the middle. Wherever he goes, all of those nodes have to follow. They describe it in the paper like having a team of experts where each member can tackle the part of it that they're best with, and somebody who knows who has all those skills and can navigate that. But yeah, so you can imagine like Octopus has this idea and it bounces around the different models and they travel along these edges. And at the end of the day, they all get processed and go back into the answer that this octopus wants on his little phone right there. Plus, it's an open source model, so you can play with it on Hugging Face. All right, now I have some really good news for you. My last video was crushing it in views. Considering I have 11,000 subscribers overall, to get 7.2 thousand views means I'm getting like 80% of my sub count in views. So this video absolutely crushed it. Now, it could just be a good video, but I also need to give a little bit of credit because Matt Wolf helped me kind of craft that title, and obviously he knows what he's doing in this space. A little bit of mystery and intrigue in the way the title was built. I had like 4 versions of this thumbnail, and I agonized over whether or not it should say like next 2 years in the thumbnail or like out in the wild or replicating on its own. And finally I just was like no text on it. For whatever reason, you guys definitely clicked on it, definitely liked it. Like I got tons of comments. You can see the graph is like way above where the gray is, which is like my average range. Made a full $20, got 214 new subscribers off this video, like almost 1,000 hours of watch time. Thank you. It's very cool. Click-through rate was 8.6, very high. Bunch of unique viewers came in. Engagement was good. I mean, a little bit above average, but close to average. Like retention looks really good. I got almost 50% of people to watch the 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And oh my gosh, do I have a big change in female viewership. 1.9%. The ladies are loving it. 69% of people coming from non-subscribed. That's great. It means a whole bunch of new people were introduced to the content. Age brackets are pretty normal. United States and UK are pretty normal, but that's great. I'm just super happy with the performance. Great thoughtful comments. I always appreciate that. I went through all of them. Let's see how many there were total, including my replies. There was 140 comments. You guys can see the secret dislike ratio, 9 people. Oh my gosh. That's actually not that bad. 9 down, 457 up. Pretty good ratio. 98% positive. Thank you. So yeah, I'm just going to stay the course. We're going to keep doing more news like this. I'm starting to spend more time on this. Like I got a tip a week ago that I should change my IP when I'm uploading so that it's more like maybe I'm from Silicon Valley, and then people would be like, oh, this must be like a Silicon Valley insider, and then treat my content more because that's like the hub of AI, but I haven't done that yet. I've just used my normal IP, but maybe I'll test that at some time. So yeah, let me know if you play with that new AI jump feature and what part of the video it took you to, if you use that at any point throughout this video. And that's a wrap for me. See you guys in the next video.